it's Gavin with Haverstick Designs. We're here at Chance Cube Studios near Louisville, Kentucky, and we're gonna go check out this amazing studio, so follow me. Hey, Robby, how you doing?
Gavin.
Gavin, good to have you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
I guess we left the door unlocked.
I know, you know, sometimes riffraff will come in like me, and you probably should keep that locked, but I'm glad it was open today.
Glad it was open today. How you doing?
I'm doing well, yeah. It's really awesome to be here. Last time I was here, it was just drywalled walls, and I was doing some before acoustical testing. But just to be here now when it's completely done, you'd sent me some photos, but just to see it in person, man, it turned out amazing.
Yes,
The pictures don't do it justice, do they?
It doesn't really, yeah. It's like, I love the color choices, the design, the aesthetic, it just all feels really comfortable. All right, so we're here in Robert Johnson's live room at Chance Cube Studios. Man, what a project, right? I mean, this has been a long time coming for you. Not only, you know, something that you've always wanted, but it's just the physical construction of a space like this takes a little bit of time, but we're here, like it's all done.
It's pretty incredible.
I actually came down here for the first time during COVID. Got the call from you, and we came down here June of 2020. It was my first business trip after COVID had broke, and drove down here and took some physical measurements of the room and just see what we had to work with. And first thing was just, man, what a beautiful canvas that we have to work with. Because a lot of times when I go into a basement, I'm like, man, I hope we can get 8-foot ceilings. I hope we can get maybe 8.5 would be beautiful. This started off as 16 feet, which that was a lot of forethought on your part when you built this house, right?
Yes, it was. We, back in 2008, it was now my ex-wife and I, we built this house, and we told the builder I wanted 16-foot ceilings in the basement, and I got the deer in headlights look.
Yeah, of course.
It was pretty crazy. He was like, well, then he said, okay. And I said, well, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna be hanging a ceiling and, you know, heavy weight from the ceiling. He said, okay, I can tell, you know, I'll tell my designer that this is what we're gonna do and this is what we need. And I said, well, I need a super open floor plan. And so he centralized all the utilities. So we had a wide open floor, and I'd bring people down here and say, yeah, this is where I'm gonna build my studio. And like, you can play basketball down here right now. It was nice to be able to say, hey, Gavin, I've got a basement here that's got 16-foot ceilings in it, and your reaction was pretty priceless too.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Then you said, oh, wow.
Yeah, it was like a playground for me. It's like, I usually don't get this to work with, and it just opens up so many options. You know, sometimes in studio designs, we're always, there's compromises, and in this one, there wasn't a ton of compromises. We could pretty much do what we wanted to. But yeah, this control room that we're in right now, you know, we got, as far as the acoustical treatment goes, we have a lot of thick absorbers and also some diffusers here in the back. It's a balance, because behind these absorbers, it's not just fiberglass absorption. There's also some elements that are more reflective, or there's some that are tuned a little bit. And so we wanted to make sure that we controlled the room to get accurate mixing, but make sure that it's not so dead and oppressive that you don't want to be in here. Like when you're even just talking in here, it feels very natural, not too dead and closed off. And so how's your experience been listening in a room like this compared to what you've had in the past?
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's totally different than anything that, you know, when you're doing live mixes, it's a whole lot different in a church building, and this is just incredible, the sound-wise. And when you have musicians walk in and they go in and they're like, man, it's great playing in this place.
Yeah.
You know, inside the studio when they're playing in the live room, the drummer we have come over, he's just like, I'll play whenever you want me to.
Yeah, right.
And so it's just incredible that the sound and what you designed came to pass.
Yeah.
It's really nice, the low end resolution from the sub. You know, the musicians will come in and say, well, let's listen to what we've played, and so they can either feel like they want to gain some inspiration to add in or change, or we want to add, oh man, I think a Hammond would sound good here, or how about we add some guitar parts here, and they come in and they're like, the look on their faces is priceless when they hear it. And it's like, those drums are incredible in there.
Yeah.
And they can't believe it.
Well, and a lot of times people don't have the experience to listen in a room of this caliber. You know, it's like it's you know, top notch in every way, and because of the effort that you guys put into it. Because you know, sometimes you know, people want to build a studio and they're like, hey, I want to go after it, but I don't want to go all the way. But that's one nice thing about this job is just you wanted it to be what your dream was, you know, so many years ago, and I think you've made it happen. Yeah, one thing that's really interesting in here for me is that like the desk is more of a standing desk rather than a sit-down desk. I know you have some chairs that you can have seated, but I think it's really comfortable to be able to stand, and then it gives you nice sight lines into the live room. Is that how you normally use it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I like the gear space below the console. Mm-hmm. That's really nice because I knew I had a lot of gear.
Yeah.
I need a lot of rack space. But standing, I can be mobile. I can move back and forth. I can look at the drummer. I can look through the doors, and you know, it's just easier.
Yeah. Well, I know that one of the challenges here for the isolation of the room. Originally, there's 3 windows along this wall, and because this basement, it's partially underground and partially above ground too, and. Originally in our design, we had the windows included, but then for privacy and safety reasons and other things like that, we ended up walling over it.
Yes.
And so, and we built pretty much a room within a room for all of this, and except for the ceiling. We had to do ICW spring hangers from Kinetics Noise Control because we wanted to preserve as much of that ceiling height as we could. But it's a bunker down here, right? I mean, it is something where, you know, like just a little while ago, you were telling me about how when people mow the yards in this neighborhood, like you don't even hear it down here. It's like I know you were just trying to be a good neighbor and trying to make sure you isolate it well enough to not disturb other people, but also you don't want it to disturb your recordings too.
Right.
That's the beauty of this construction is it's so proper and tight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The control room is an incredible sounding room. Mm-hmm. It really is.
So when it came to selecting speakers for the room, have you always used Focal, or is it something that you were trying out new?
No, I've had those for quite a while. I've been collecting equipment since 1996. Mm-hmm. So I purchased those in 2014. Mm-hmm. And I used a set of them. A friend of mine that was at the Guitar Center Professional there in Atlanta, he let me borrow a set. Mm-hmm. I was down in Noonan doing a recording for some friends. He said, try a set of these. You'll love them. Mm-hmm. Oh man, he was a salesman if he were a salesman.
Yeah.
But it loved the guy for it because I brought those home. They were sitting upstairs in my office on stands, and I knew what they were going to be. They were going to be my near-field monitors. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of the Focal. Yeah. I'd love to have some Trio 6s.
Sure.
But I'm hoping to transition to those soon. But they're fantastic.
Yeah. Well, and I bet they sound amazing in this room, but even more so, they act as a pedestal for Watto.
They do.
Which is like a big part of the name of this whole studio.
Yeah. Watto, he's got his hands out over the console, so he's ready to.
He's ready to operate.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, and then we got introduced from Chris Karn at Vintage King.
Yeah.
I remember him giving me a call, and he was telling me a little bit about your project, and I think he sent me a couple photos maybe, and I was like, yeah, I'd love to talk to Robert about that, and we hit it off, and ended up working on this project together, and we've got this live room here, which is kind of I think the centerpiece of the studio, but then we also have a control room, have a little ISO booth here behind us. I feel like what you can do down here in this basement is, on a level that most studios would dream of. To have the type of sounds you can get in this space.
That's what we want to do.
Yeah,
we're excited about that. Chris Karn and Vintage King. They've been good people to me. Mm-hmm. Chris, I met Chris, I bet probably 10 years ago, and I called in on a Saturday, and he happened to answer the phone. And Chris Karn, if he's so personable, he talked to me like he'd known me for years.
Yeah.
And was glad I called, and he's probably really glad I called now.
Yeah.
But But, you know, we built a good relationship, and I just met him for the first time a few weeks ago down in Nashville, and it was great. And then he was able to be here today to share this with us, and it's so exciting.
Yeah. All right, we're here in the control room with Robert, of course, but then also Chris Karn from Vintage King. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, definitely.
I thought it'd be great if you could go through and just give us a rundown of some of the key pieces of gear that are in here. Obviously, there's a lot, but maybe you could talk about some of your favorites and how you use them.
Yeah, we can do that. Definitely a few of my favorites here are the 1073s from Neve. They're, probably can't tell, but there's a whole bunch of them there, because it is truly my favorite pre. I prefer the ISA 428s, which is, you know, a Rupert Neve design pre. I use those on drums a lot. AEA makes some, these are RPQ2s. They're fantastic pre's. They're on the Coles 4038s in the live room there on the drums, and on the AEA R88. The old M5s I love on, coupled with U47s on my piano. Of course, the Tree Audio is a favorite piece too for the vocal. What do you think, Chris?
I love that. That's probably one of the most exciting compressor limiters that's built into that one. And the tube pre is just beautiful. And the top end and low end Pultec style EQ is really nice. It's hi-fi tube. It's not cloudy tube. It has a bit of a halo to it.
Yes.
In a way.
Of course, you can see the 1073 DPX and SPX there, 8801s. Just two racks of Neve's channel strips that I've built with the Mercury chassis. Mercury makes some fantastic 500 chassis. There's nothing like them. Then, of course, I'm an SSL guy too. I love my SSL. Just pristine pre's, good for anything you want to do. I've got some old Neve pulls from Dan Alexander. Chris recognized those earlier today when he saw them. He's like, oh, wow, some Dan Alexanders.
And it's really nice too, because you have quite a combination of different flavors that you can pull from. I mean, you'll see in a minute, you know, how large his live room is, and you can track a full band. And this way you can pick whatever colors you need for whatever instrument. And that's a great thing about that.
So this is the Mara machines, fully restored. This is a 1980 model, state-of-the-art 1980 model. MCI JH24 2-inch 24-track tape machine, fully functional, fully restored by Chris Mara there in Nashville. By far one of the best pieces I've purchased. So next to it here, we've got a nice choice of compression. My favorites are, by all means, the 2254R Neves. And then I'm gonna have to say my second favorite would be the Chandler Germaniums. And then of course there's an early 2500 or 500 series bus compressor from SSL down there. And then I've got some old 90s model Aphex tube compressors. We can even do a DAT, new old stock machine that I found that it's by all means available.
The great thing about that is there are some people that have old demos, old rough mixes on those things, and some of the old machines are failing. So
yeah,
it'd be a great way to bring it back, get it onto a hard disk.
Yeah, middle there we've got AMS RMX16. It's the 500 version, but still incredible.
I own the same one. I was just using it this weekend.
Really?
Yeah, this past weekend.
It's my favorite reverb. There's an old TCM 3000 there from the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely dialed for tracking and mixing. If you were to recommend a channel strip for someone that wanted the best of the best, just pre-EQ compression and a microphone, something that could cover everything, what would you recommend?
I would recommend the 8801 Neve.
Nice. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
It's not as popular as, say, like a 1073. Everybody knows that with the tube tech. Yeah. But that's good.
When you've had the thought of having the studio for so long, is it what you envisioned?
I feel like it's better. than what I envisioned. I had been in other studios and professional facilities, and I didn't really know what to expect. And you see places, and then I'm like, well, okay, I've got this gear. They don't have this gear. A lot of the studios that I've been in, I had better gear than they have.
Sure.
But yet they have records on the radio. And I'm like, well, what's my problem? Why can't I do that? Well, I was with an engineer in Atlanta back in 2013, and he listened to some of my recordings. And he's like, tell me what you used. So I told him what I used. He goes, oh. I said, that's better than what I have here. He said, well, it's definitely not an equipment issue. Sounds like you know what you're doing. There's something else, though. Where do you record at? Mm-hmm. He said, that's it.
Yeah.
He said, you don't have the room.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you don't have the area. He said, the room is 90% of it. Yeah. And if the room sounds bad, guess what you capture? A bad room.
Right.
And I said, well, I can't do that. Mm-hmm. I can't have a bad room. And I'm an all-in guy. I'm either all in or I'm all out.
Yeah.
So when we built this, it was, okay, I hadn't originally planned to do a floating, an isolated floor. Well, the spacing and the time that it took to do the entire project, well, I was able to afford it.
Yeah.
So we were able to go do the additional steps to make it a full-blown professional facility in my house.
Yeah.
There are no shortcuts here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right down to the wiring in the walls. I mean, isolated circuits in the control room, isolated in the ISO booth. Mm-hmm. We did everything.
Yeah.
It was spared no expense, and just it took a little while longer.
Sure.
But the end of the journey, we've got a full-blown professional facility that would rival I feel like anything in Nashville, just maybe not on the grand scale.
Sure.
But scale's not everything.
Yeah. All right, so I think that we should check out the vocal booth and then head on into the live room after that. All right, so this little vocal booth here, we had some additional space between the control room and the live room, and wanted to get you a space that you could do vocals in.
Sure.
And so it's a mostly dry, clean sound in here. And not only are the walls treated with stretch fabric system, Simplified Acoustics installed, also that entire ceiling is also, while it looks like it's drywall, it's actually all acoustically transparent fabric with a lot of bass trapping above it. So, but yeah, as soon as you walk in here, you feel it's more tight and controlled, and it's good for vocals for that reason.
It's definitely. Or been doing some guitar cabinets in here too.
Yeah, that's great for that too.
Fantastic for anything that you want to, need loud, or you just need something very clean. This is a great room. Plus, we have the isolated circuits in here, so we know we're going to have clean power.
Yeah. What I love too about this booth is that the way it's a pass-through to get to the live room, because obviously you have the hallway over there that you can walk back and forth through, but it just gives you another path to be able to, like, say you had things set up that made that entrance a little bit more difficult to walk through. You have another opportunity here. Then we have these great sliding glass doors from soundproofwindows.com. We use these a lot in our designs. It's a double laminated glass system, and once these are shut, like, you can barely hear anything through them, and get some really good isolation between whatever's sensitive going on in here versus in here in the live room.
When you close the doors, it really gets airtight in there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We were doing a recording a few weeks ago, and I had the bass cabinet in there, and I had both doors closed. And I opened them up and took a dB reading. It was 110 dB, but you closed the doors and couldn't hear it in here.
Oh, wow.
So we were able to run the bass cabinet mic'd and direct for our bass track on our record. So
that's great.
It was fantastic.
That's really awesome. Well, this is, I feel like, the centerpiece of the studio. This live room is beautiful. Aesthetically, I love the way it turned out, but also just have this type of volume and this amount of space for allow the instruments to really breathe and open up and develop in a room like this is just fantastic. You know, we used a lot of the footprint that was available for the live room, because I remember when we first talked, you were like, hey, I just want to be able to have a full band in here if we want to. I want drums to sound amazing. And I think we accomplished that with what we got
Absolutely.
here. Yeah,
Sure did.
Absolutely. This is an incredible drum room.
yeah. And there's a lot of different acoustical elements here. There's stretch fabric systems that are throughout, kind of this angled section that you see in some of the walls. It's 6 inches deep of acoustical treatment there. Some of them have like a pegboard facing over the top of it, which is going to absorb the low frequencies better, but then not absorb the high frequencies as much. So it just brings some balance back to the room, because while it looks like a lot of treatment, this room doesn't sound dead. You know, there's still some air there. Yeah, and you're able to hear that. And there's corner bass traps. There's these diffusers that are on the ceiling to help scatter the sound. That's one thing that we didn't want to over-absorb the ceilings, because once the energy gets up there, you want it to be able to kind of filter back down to the room mics that you might have in here. So that's a great addition. Then you also have the Flex 48s from Acoustical Fulfillment.
Yes.
And that is a great product that gives you some flexibility to add and remove the shields and be able to tune the room for different applications. So you can make it more lively or more dead depending on what you're doing. And so you've got those kind of scattered throughout the room as well. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I just feel like it's one of those rooms where you just kind of want to be in here. I'd like to track something in here right now. You know, it's like
I can pick one up.
Yeah, no, I don't know if we're going to do that on camera, okay? But I don't think I'm ready for that. But maybe my band will come here someday and record something.
That would be fantastic.
That'd be pretty fun. No, I think I'm sure that you've had people come through and tour the space so far. Like, what's their reaction? Like when they walk down in the basement, it's a little jarring because you don't expect to see this in someone's house.
That's right. I had a gentleman that Robby knows. Right now he's my session drummer, and he said, "Oh, great, a basement studio," like kind of sarcastic, you know. And he comes down the main entrance like you guys did, and he walks in the room and his mouth drops open. Mm-hmm. He puts his head down and he says, "You know, I didn't expect this."
Yeah.
He said, "People say basement studio, I'm thinking egg crate on the walls,
sure, some
lamps, maybe a rug or two." Mm-hmm. He said, "I didn't expect this."
Yeah.
And he's a drummer, so he saw my drums. He's like, "Well, I'm a Pearl guy." I said, "Well, don't judge yet till you..." And at the end of the session we had, he's like, "I'll play anytime you want me to play, if I'm available. Yeah. You have an amazing kit."
Nice.
He said, "I like to play those drums.
Yeah.
I'll take these snares with me if you don't want them." I said, "No, I need them.
You need to keep them."
I got a really nice Ludwig kit, 13, 14, 16, 18-inch toms, 24-inch kick. We've got 2 snares, got a hammered Black Beauty, 14x7, and then we've got a Superphonic. Overheads, I use a set of Telefunken ELM 260s. And then in the center is a UM 92.1S Microtech FL. On the snare, we do the really complicated gaff tape with 57 and a C451 from AKG on the top. And then there's another 451 on the bottom as well for the bottom side. The kick has a MD421 in it, and then we have a U47 FET by Neumann. And an old AKG C480 on the hat. And then on the toms are a little different. We have a specialty cable that Chris recommended. Yeah. It's a phase cable, and what it does is we put a 421 on the top and an SM57 on the bottom, and then the cable is wired to invert the phase on the bottom microphone. And it is just an amazing combination that Chris highly recommended, and I had to try it because if he recommended paper towels, I would have to buy that brand of paper towel.
It's just kind of simplifies things. You know, usually you have to EQ the 421s a bit. I found, and it sounds like you found as well, and a couple of my other friends that I record with, that if you do that, the most you'll do is just add a little bit of top end to the EQ of the toms, and they just sound beautiful, fat and resonant and clear. It's just a great hack. And I'm always looking for things in life that make engineering much easier.
Few recordings that I've shared with you, all I've done is gate them.
Yeah,
There's no EQ.
Yeah, you got to gate them because they're pretty open and wild.
Got a mixed bag of cymbals on there. We got some Zildjian K-Dark cymbals, some hats, and then a couple cymbals. I got a K Organic Ride over there, and then, of course, a couple A custom cymbals. And then here for in-ear monitoring system, we use an Aviom A320 system.
Yeah.
Which all around the room there are Cat 6 jacks, so you can put a personal mixer anywhere in the room.
And you have the ribbon mics going here too.
Yeah.
You have that's the 88, right?
Yeah, it's the AEA R88, and I got a couple Coles 4038s back here to capture some more room ambiance. So overall it's pretty incredible sound.
Oh yeah.
And then the rest of it is done by the room.
Yeah. Gavin did an amazing job at creating this space right here specifically for the drums. And there's a real beautiful richness of low end that's happening back there. And then out here, it really kind of evens out. So you get a beautiful even phase coherence. So these room mics aren't getting a lot of boom. They're getting like a lot of punch. So it's a great design. I can't wait to, when we're done filming, we're going to actually like light some things up and make some noises.
Yes, I hope we do.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Absolutely.
Tell me too a little bit about the piano. Like, where'd you find that guy?
Well, Robby.
Friend of mine.
Yeah.
A lady we used to go to church with had it in her living room, and she was getting ready to sell the house, and she said, "Do you know anybody who wants to buy a piano?" And I said, "Well, I'll call somebody and see if he's willing."
Yeah.
She said, "Well, I'll give it to him for a good price," and she did.
Yeah.
And but yeah, that's a great move there. It was a nice piano, and we're getting ready to have a guy from Steinway come in and retune it a little bit for us.
Really happy for you, because I know that we talked about how COVID kind of slowed some things down. There's some delays and things, but man, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just really cool to see what we talked about 4 years ago and what you dreamed up however many years ago, 36 years ago or so, has come to life, you know?
Yeah.
And, one of the things that we had to do was isolate the space, because we didn't want it to disturb your neighbors. Like, that was one of the biggest things.
Yes.
And that is an undertaking, to try to isolate a space. And we ended up having to kind of build a room within a room for a lot of this, but we also use spring hangers on the ceilings from Kinetics, and Wes Sipes from Sipes Custom Carpentry did all the isolation and construction of the space. And I mean, that's a lot of heavy lifting. I mean, not to use a pun, but I mean, he had to really do a lot of things down here to make it all happen.
He did, and his pursuit of quality was there. His contractors were fantastic. His guys that did all the framing, those are the most important guys. I'm telling you what, they're two brothers. And they had quality in mind when they built it. Yeah. And they knew, I told them what I was doing, told them it was my dream, and they were like, man, that's cool. That is really cool.
Yeah.
We're glad to be a part of that. So they worked like they were building it for themselves.
Yeah.
So the quality down here is impeccable.
So we're here with Wes Sipes from Sipes Custom Carpentry, and you were tasked with building this whole thing.
I was.
Which is not an easy job. And maybe you thought it was going to be harder than it was, or easier than it was. What was your experience with building something like this?
Well, I've never really been afraid to take on a new challenge. So when I was asked to build a recording studio, I'd never done anything like this before, but I was excited about learning about it and trying to figure it out. And I'm not really the type of guy to get overwhelmed by things like that or get afraid of them until there's a clear-cut reason to be. So I just kind of dove in head first and asked you a lot of questions.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's like when I get questions from the contractor, it's a good day. For you, compared to other things that you've built, what was the biggest challenge for this space?
Probably the biggest challenge was trying to figure out all of the sound isolation equipment that had to go everywhere, the different springs and where they go and the layouts for that and the wall ties. And, you can't have this wall touching the floor, but it also can't touch the ceiling.
Sure.
Well, how do you mount a wall that you can't have touching the floor or the ceiling?
Yes.
It can't float, so it's gotta be anchored somehow and at some point. And just learning all the different brackets and bushings and the sound mats that we had to put down under the walls and different things and gapping and how to hide all of that and make it look like a normal residential build.
Yeah.
But behind it, it is very technical.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, we sent over a plan set of things for you to look at, and I know we reviewed it together, but, you know, once you kind of scratch your head a little bit, like, how do I actually, what's the order that I need to do to put all this stuff together? And obviously you did a phenomenal job. When I came here and did testing, I mean, everything was, you know, spot on where it needed to be. And, you know, throughout the build, there's obviously like things that audibles we have to call, and like we got to change this up because of this, that, or the other. But you've just done an awesome job with this. You know, I don't envy some of the things you had to do. Like when we're drawing it on plans, it's much easier for us to do some mouse clicks than it is for you to actually do it.
And then one thing that kind of stood in my mind throughout the whole process was something you said early on about just imagine if it'll hold water. If it'll hold water, it'll hold sound. But then there's also the, you know, how do you build a fish tank with cracks all in it?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And we were talking off camera a little bit before. This project didn't scare you off. You're up to doing more.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
It can get stale doing the same thing over and over, so I've always liked things that will challenge you a little bit to keep you interested in what you're doing.
That's awesome. Well, you've just done an awesome job here. If I have another project that's anywhere close, you'll be my first call.
Well, I appreciate that.
Thanks, Wes.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So yeah, he did an amazing job on all the framing, construction. The measurements were right as we had drawn them. We also installed all of the doors and windows from soundproofwindows.com. You got a lot of those things from them. And that is part of this, is that you can't really do everything to a very top level and then skimp on something else, because you put in windows that don't isolate well enough, then, well, you just spent too much on a wall, or you know, doors that aren't sealed well. You know, you might as well not have gone to the effort of other things. But yeah, everything was just done top notch. And then once we finished construction, then it was time to treat the rooms. You know, and so we had done some renderings for you along the way, and kind of showing you what it looked like. And that's kind of where it gets a little fun, you know, where you can see your vision come to life, and choose colors and all of those things. Like, what was that experience like, just like receiving those renderings for the first time?
Oh, wow. Man, I was just blown away. I was so excited. I was like, there it is.
Yeah.
There are the colors. There's the treatment. This is what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
And then Matt Call with Simplified came in and put those to reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
And did the midtones that we wanted in the back of the room, and just did everything.
Yeah.
And he was excited about it. He's like, he looked up and was like, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not every day that you get to work on a job like this. Well, Matt gets to do a lot of work for us. Like he works in a lot of studios, but even something like this is abnormal, you know, in a basement. But yeah, I just think the combination of the treatments that were selected, the colors, you know, everything about it just makes for a space that you feel comfortable in, and that's what you want. You know, you want people to come over here and feel like they're ready to be creative. Yeah. And you obviously have a lot of instruments around here as well, like guitars, basses. Yeah. I have my eye on that orange Gretsch over there. That's a nice one. I think actually I took a picture of that the last time I was here. And
I think so.
Yeah, you got a lot of nice instruments. You've been collecting for a while though, right?
I have.
Yeah.
I have. Well, if someone wants to come in and they have a musical vision, but they don't have great instruments, but their vision is great.
Yeah.
Why should they be limited by their instrument?
Right.
So if we've got nice instruments here that people can pick up and say, man, I really love to have a great guitar on my record.
Yeah.
Got you covered.
Yeah.
Come pick.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
pick what you want. So I don't have low-end guitars. They're all high-end guitars. So that's important to me. Yeah. If we can put our best foot forward on everything that we record, then there shouldn't be any reason why great recordings can't be made.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. No, you've got everything. You've got the instruments, you've got the room, you get the players in here. It's also, I think the vibe of the room, you know, I know we had done these renderings really early on to kind of show you what this space was going to look like. And we had gravitated to like kind of some grays and white colors, but then with the Chance Cube name and then going with the red and blue, like from the dice there, I think it really just like sets it off. And it's different than almost any studio that we've ever done, is this kind of color scheme that we have here. And then even down to the lighting, you know, like the lighting, we ended up throwing those into the renderings too. And I know that it took a while maybe to find these lights.
It did. I wanted this presence, if you will. You know, you can turn the perimeter lights off. Everything's dimmable, and I love the Edison LED. They create a look of vintage.
Yeah.
Where I have the classic look, but it's all energy efficient as well.
Well, and I love how clean everything is. I know you have some storage here for, you know, cables and everything that are really well done. And
we're really proud of that.
Yeah, that's a nice wall. I mean, that's for sure. But then you have some storage areas, because every studio needs storage that's kind of out of the way a little bit, but easily accessible. And then the beautiful lounge that you have here that you made for guests, I think that's a big part of it, because most of the time they're going to want to just hang out in the control room. But giving them a nice space with a kitchenette and refrigerator and everything. And also another thing in this live room that not a lot of live room has is this Leslie cabinet. Can you tell us a little bit more about this guy?
Well, this is a 1962 numbers matching Hammond B3 with a Leslie 122. That was one of my other dream instruments. Having my own piano the first day we opened, it was an amazing feat that I never thought it would be. But then I was able to get this Hammond from a company in Florida. And a friend of mine sent me, hey, you need to check out this. Sent me a link. Said, check out this company called Keyboard Exchange. And I found a 62 on there, and I was like, man, I'd really like to have that. So I called them up, and they said, what we do is we acquire these, they're privately owned, and we buy them, and then go through them, make sure all the tone wheels are correct, the tubes are correct, and everything works properly. And then we resell them. Well, this one came out of a private home. When we got it down here, we opened the bench up, and in the bench was the original sales certificate from 1962, where it was purchased for $3,300
from Hammond. So I mean, it was really.
Then the original warranty booklet was in there, and the original owner's manual, all in the bench.
That's awesome.
A friend of mine, his wife comes over and plays it for us, and she's incredible, and I'm just in awe.
Yeah.
And we've put it on a few tracks already, and I stereo mic it and mic the bottom with a 421 and a couple of Cam 184 Neumanns on the top, and just wow. That's all I can say. You pan it off, and it's just that wow factor, all that 70s and 60s vibe that you would have on a record. If you want that, we've got it.
Yeah.
And it's another one of those dream instruments. I said, I want it in my studio.
Yeah.
And here it is.
What's next for you for the studio? I mean, now you've built it. What's gonna happen from here?
We are hoping, my partner Robby Wolf and I hope to get some named people in here and get some people that want to be in a nice laid back atmosphere and a family oriented facility. You know, after all, it is my home. I like to be a good host. Just have it laid back.
Yeah.
Hey, if we don't get done today, we'll leave the gear on. The instruments are here. We'll come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're not going to find anything like this in this city to produce the quality I believe that we can produce. But I think that you'll find value in that, in the quality, and then hopefully in the people you work with and how welcoming and accommodating we are.
Yeah. Oh, I think you build a great kind of destination spot for people to come in here and get work done, but also have a good time while they're doing it. Yeah. And it's, I mean, that's the dream. So
it is.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for having us here at your studio for this tour. I'm sure everyone's going to love seeing everything you've done here, and I just wish you like the best of luck with the studio. It's going to really be great.
Well, thank you, Gavin.
Thank you, Rob.
Appreciate you very much.
Of course.